If you don't have that, Form 16 will do. This Form 16 has to be filed by the employer anyhow. Hi guys, and welcome to Mentor's YouTube channel. My name is Alan Arvind and I'm a CFA charter holder, and today we'll be discussing very touchy topic on employee contracts. And I believe since a lot of students, of course, once you clear the interviews and you get the offer letter and you're very happy about joining the company, there are times when we tend to overlook some things, very important terms and conditions, or policies, or legal aspects of which probably you will not be aware, because the legal, the language, the legal terms and conditions can be really intimidating for a layman to understand. So what I thought is I will just make a very simple, understandable content which probably can be used on a daily basis life without going too much into things probably which really won't come in handy in the real life. So, for example, just straight away going into the topic, if you can see it in my slide at the moment, at first instance, it just looks like a contract, and you might just quickly sign it because you are more interested in taking the offer letter and joining the company because the package is good. But you forget to look at certain points which might hamper your exit in a more peaceful way. So for example, out here it is written that you cannot compete with the business for 3 years, any similar business in the geographical area, or the geographical area which the company might create in the future. Right now, this clause is detrimental to a person's freedom, right? And there are various such clauses which us employees tend to overlook, and a lot of times it's not even fought in the court. Most of the times these things don't even go to the court. But since you are not aware of what is right and what is wrong, there is a good chance that you might just accept the term, and you might just stop your dreams from coming true, right? So let's get started with the first topic. So I'm going to start with the offer until exit and touching upon important topics in which clauses like this also will get covered. So there are areas where you need to be very careful from your perspective because it might be actually illegal, right? So for example, once you have been offered the offer letter and you have it in your email or whatever soft copy, and you sign it and you give it back, right? That's an acceptance of an offer letter. And usually companies, what they will do is, apart from just taking your signed letter, they might also give you something in return, which implies that the contract is now active, right? Now, rarely has it happened that a company has, basis of the offer letter being accepted and the person not joining the company, has really, used any civil cases, or really any legal action has been taken. However, you never know, what a company might be capable of doing using this document, this proof, to hamper or hinder your, career, right? The other aspect of it is, if in case the company has spent a lot of money for you to, let's say, get shifted to another location, and then the training cost, etc., and then you reject the offer, then that is illegal, right? So the best way to deal with cases, and it's pretty normal that you might accept the offer at the haste of the moment, and later on you might just get a better offer. The best thing to do is to communicate your change of circumstances. That might be anything. I know there's a rampant use of abuse of offer letters being accepted and then people not joining it, but I think this point is, I think, the problem of the employee, not the employer, right? So, and I think the employees have to be a little bit more careful out here. Second, let's go into the terms and conditions. Okay, now these are the terms to look out for as an employer. Now these are the places where you might be in trouble later on. Okay, so you don't want to regret that later on. So the best thing is to look out for these top areas of terms and conditions. And if the offer letter does not have the terms and conditions, you should get the terms and conditions, because you finally are eventually getting into a simple contract. First question to ask is, in case you're joining as in probation, if the company has a probation policy of 3 months, right, are you treated as a separate grade of employee compared to a normal employee, right? So that's very important, because just like how a grade is defined for a normal employee versus a probie employee, in the same way policies of exits and policy of working might be different. For example, a lot of times, 3 months notice period might not be applicable to a probationary candidate, right? But you need to look at the terms and conditions whether it's actually written, because uh, in a similar fashion, how a normal employee has to be given notice before terminating him, or maybe we want to remove an employee. In the similar manner, an employee can also give 3 months notice period, right? However, it might not be applicable for probation officers or probationary candidates, because probationary candidates can, in the terms and conditions, it might be written that can be terminated at any point without giving notice and might just sign it. But on the other hand, it might so happen that the probationary candidates might not have the same luxury of leaving without any notice, right? Second, are there any alternatives to notice period, right? Because if there is a notice period, what if I don't want to serve the notice period? Is there a clause which is written out here, right? Now these are other factors which might show the quality of the company. So if, for example, does the company have a decent medical cover, or does the company have a medical cover which is about 1 to 2 lakhs health cover, which does not even make any sense, right? And that might just be forcefully put in the CTC to make the CTC look pretty high, right? How much does the employer contribute to the provident fund? Of course, we as employees, when we join any company, we tend to get PFs, right? We tend to contribute towards PF. But how much does the employer contribute, or does the employer also take his contribution and put it in the part of CTC, which is actually illegal? Because if you look at the employer contribution, that is mandated by law, not as a part of the cost to company, right? Finally, there have been lots of cases when women have joined, and just because of their pregnancy or because of their family planning, there was no concept of maternity leave and they got terminated. So, is there a maternity policy in the company's employment contract? Now, bigger companies will tend to have, smaller companies might just overlook this, right? Let's look at the first illegal clause. Now, these are absolutely illegal, and you don't really need to fight any cases. Even making the HR or the recruiter aware of the illegality of the term itself when it arises. I'm not saying you go and confront at the first moment, but if, let's say, there is a term inserted in such a way, it renders the entire contract void, right? For example, it is there is a restriction of joining a competitor in the same field. For example, if I'm in IT and I'm working for Infosys, I cannot join Emphasis. I mean, that's absolutely utter nonsense, because that is the restriction of trade and pursuing a lawful profession, right? According to Section 27, and there have been cases. If you look at the Delhi High Court ruling between Pepsi Foods and Coca-Cola, the judgment read that it would almost be a situation of economic terrorism, which is absolutely correct, because the only way to retain employees is to motivate them and to take care of them and to grow them, right? You cannot restrict a person after the termination of the contract. Be aware that I'm talking about after the contract is over, not during the contract. During the contract, taking any other employment anywhere else is absolutely legal, and it's a breach of contract, right? But after the termination of the employment, you are free to do anything you want to do, whether joining a competing business, whether starting a competing business, whatever, right? Illegal cause too. This is what I was talking about of starting a business. You are free, according to the Constitution of India, to access to life, and on top of that, the Section 27 of Indian Contract Act makes it very, very clear. So many cases in which every time talk about competition comes in business, it has been ruled down by the courts, right? And if the court does not allow you to start a business, which, whether it's competing or it's not competing, then there will be monopoly, right? Now there is an exception out here, right? Exception means that if you are trying to use companies' resources, companies' client to start a business, now that is selling goodwill, right? That means you are your intent is not correct, right? So everything in law depends upon illegality, and legality depends upon what your intentions are. So if your intentions is to start a business by yourself in a very, very decent manner, using your own resources, using your own time, and even preparing for going to business, that's absolutely legal. There's nothing illegal about it, as long as the business that you are starting is written pilot stage. Okay, it should not happen that while you're in business, you've registered the company and you've done everything else, which showcases that the business is actually business has to be registered. Okay, so if the business is registered that and even if the business is registered and you started generating revenue, that means you have dual employment, right? Except that starting a business, even if it's competing, is absolutely legal, and the clause is illegal. Illegal clause 3 is stating that there is a 3 months notice period, but there is no buyout, which is illegal. Again, this becomes void if the term does not support any other alternative methods, right? So the buyout has to be there in case you are mentioning that it's a 3 months notice period, right? Now, most of the cases, no employer actually is interested in retaining you for 3 months unless your work is so critical that the business will stop functioning without you, right? Most of the times I've seen, although they will try to push you for 3 months, and majorly they will try to show you this clause because they want to retain you, or maybe they want to intimidate you so that they can get some hiring done quickly. But most of the time, this will last for 1 month. I've seen most of the times even 3 months notices tend to get started within 15 to 20 days. But your approach has to be more negotiative rather than confrontation. Let's go to the next point on the exit checklist. Now, these are the places where you need to be very careful because a lot of criminal cases can be structured if you are parting in not so good terms. And I think 50% of the time you're not really parting in good terms because nobody's expecting your resignation, right? So transfer all and every single asset. What is an asset to the employer? Everything. Your laptop, the data on the laptop, pen drives, keys, pens, screens, whatever you have taken from the employer or the employer has given you during the time of the contract, you should return as quickly as possible and also get an email confirmation on their acceptance. Let's look at the experience letter. There have been cases when people are not leaving in good terms, tend to worry a lot on experience letter, that whether will I get an experience letter. But tell you the fact, in current modern recruitment processes, there is hardly anyone who's asking for an experience letter. Nobody asks for us. All they ask for is your previous offer letter, and they will ask for your pay slips. Even if you don't have that, Form 16 will do, because Form 16 has to be filed by the employer anyhow. And resignation email on which the employer has not reverted will be treated as an exit. Now, the whole objective of getting such emails and letters which the prospective employer is asking for is just to make sure that you don't have any dual employment. Okay, there's no other reason for asking for resignation letter. Let's talk about a very touchy topic on starting a business, because this is where even I have faced issues. But I'll try to simplify this. Okay, now if the business concept is not related to your employee, it is best to disclose, because the employer should also not have a problem. And you don't have to disclose too much, but you can disclose that yes, you are thinking about starting a business and you are doing so in your own time with your own resources, and I think there should be no problem about it, right? But if it's directly competing, then of course you don't want to tell the employer that you are planning so, and that's also absolutely fine. Nobody is obliged to give all the information on what you're doing in a personal life. So as long as you are doing your preparation, whatever you're doing, your pilots, your experiments, whichever you're doing off duty hours, off working hours, with your own resources, with your own systems, with your own internet, with your own clients, there's absolutely nothing illegal about it, as long as it is in the pilot stage. Okay, if it's in the pilot stage, you have not received any revenue, you have not registered the company, there is nothing that the company can do against you, and you should be without any trouble, right? Legal issues can arise if you have received income, okay, or maybe you have registered an LLP, or you have registered a proper company with MC. Now that shows that you have your employment, right? Okay, if I start a business and then I solicit clients of my previous employer, that's illegal. That means my intent was not correct. That is theft. That's literally theft, right? Because I'm going into my client's resources and I'm taking their data to get wrongful gains for me. That's illegal. But if anything else that I'm doing, that's absolutely fine. As a simple 6 tips that I gave you might help in your employment, in accepting the correct job, and also being tension free in terms of what is going wrong and what that is going around. So if you like the video, please do subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you again next week.